Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Wednesday night in Azeroth, and we have a great show for you. Look, I'll be honest with you. This episode, I struggled with because not that due to lack of content or a misunderstanding of what's going on in World of Warcraft this week. It's hot. We're experiencing a heat dome over the Midwest and Eastern United States. And it's been in the mid-90s all week, which when I was in California wasn't a big deal. I lived in LA for all my life, and I moved to Cincinnati in 2023. It's hot here, and not hot because, the temperature's so high. It's hot because there's so much humidity in the air. It completely wrecks everything that's going on. I've been sweating. This morning, I went and I made coffee, and I washed the coffee mugs from the day before and kind of cleaned things up in the kitchen, made sure everything was ready to go for the day. And when I finished that simple menial task, it was dripping in sweat. That's a real problem because, honestly, no task in the house, especially in the kitchen, should result in you dripping in sweat. But there I was, sweating profusely, ready to die. So yesterday, my wife and I went to Walmart and purchased two portable air conditioning units to put them upstairs. Because it's so bad here, it's so hot, that we were willing to spend $500 on air conditioning units rather than suffer for the next several weeks of high temperatures. Now that, according to the weather service, it is supposed to get down into the 80s next week. But we were in June. Now we're in July. This is the beginning of summer. Summer is just getting going. We only have 2.5 more months of this. We're going to die if we don't have some sort of relief. So, and all this to say, really, that's why this episode is late, and that's why I've kind of been pushing it off. It's, as I'm looking at the clock right now, it is 10:39 p.m. because I had to wait for it to cool down before I could even think about starting a podcast. I'm struggling. I lived in LA for my entire life, 46 years, or however long it was, that I was in Los Angeles, California. And many of those years were spent in the San Fernando Valley, which, if you are from LA or if you know LA, you know that that's probably one of the hottest spots in LA. So, yeah, this is worse. This is worse because there's no relief. It's not just hot, it's humid. And the humidity really makes things feel bad. So I'm feeling bad. I've tried to play some WoW. I've tried to do some things, and I just haven't had the motivation because, to be perfectly honest with you, it's been too hot. It's too hot to eat. It's too hot to do anything. It's just too hot. So, if you hear the fans going on in the background of my room, it's because I have fans going on in the background of my room. So there you have it. Anyway, I went through the all of the news and everything for this week of World of Warcraft, and rather than try to tackle a particular main topic of the week, what I decided I was going to do is I was going to cover all the news. Pardon me. I was going to cover all the news and then address some of the bigger news articles in line. And then that's going to be the whole show. Because, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't have it in me for any sort of monologue or anything like that. I'm just going to cover the news. We'll do the episode, and we're going to call it good. So that's what's going on this week. So hopefully that's good enough, and we'll see where that leads us. So here I am. It's now 10:41, and I'm dying because it's still over 90 degrees. So actually, hold on, I'm checking. This just in. It is 86 degrees. So I lied. It's not 90 degrees, but it's still really fucking hot. And I'm not really happy about that. So, all right, let's get into what I got into last week in World of Warcraft. So, yeah, there was a really good raid last week. We went through, we cleared all raid content for 25 player raids, which includes Kael'thas, Lady Vosh, Gruul, and Mag Theridon. We did the whole shaboozle over the 2-night raid experience. Kael'thas, we managed to get through pretty easily. Lady Vosh, we did one attempt, and it was really good, but we had a couple of screw-ups. We heroed right off the bat instead of waiting, and we went in for a second attempt, and we killed her. So when you combine a raid team who is coordinated and set up correctly with a raid that has been nerfed because we're post-nerf, yeah, it's doable. It's completely doable. So yes, we killed Lady Vosh, and yes, we are several weeks later than everybody else out there. Yes, I get it. That's fine. You can say whatever you want, but the reality is we're done. We cleared all the raids. We killed Gruul, no DST, and we killed Mag Theridon and got somebody in their ring. So it's good. I'm not thrilled with the current state of TBC Anniversary. I think a lot of people have already kind of tapped out and are moving on to what's coming next, which is going to be Black Temple and Mount Hyjal, which kind of stinks because we're only a month and a half into this and already people are done. So I feel like, and hear me out here, I feel like people have come in here and said, oh, we want pre-nerf. They got post-nerf. And they said, oh, we want 16-week phases. We're getting 12-week phases, probably. And ultimately, I think that's for the best. Because people they don't know what they want. And to say, hey, we're going to make this phase that's already boring for a lot of people go for 4 weeks longer than it needs to. No, there's no point. I think 12 weeks is probably good. Maybe we'll get 14. Maybe we won't. We do have patch 12.1 that's going to show up on live servers sometime in August. And if you go 12 weeks from the launch of phase 2, that's going to put us the week before the launch of patch 12.1. If we go 14 weeks, that'll put us the week after the launch of season 2. So either way, it's going to be right around that time. I think 12 weeks is probably good. I don't think we need anything more than that. There's not a sense of, oh my God, I have to have X, Y, or Z for many of these raids because, to be perfectly honest, the content is easy. As long as you know the mechanics, it's easy. I don't feel like anyone needs, oh, I need full BIS, I need full this and full that. No, we don't need that. We really don't. So, yeah, that's where we are. So we killed Vosh. Everything's cleared. We're 10 out of 10. We did a full raid clear. This weekend, we're probably going to try and cram everything into Friday because in America, 4th of July is on Saturday, Independence Day. And we have to figure out some way to celebrate independence from Great Britain. And so that's going to be on Saturday. We're going to shoot off fireworks and burn down the rest of the country that's not already burnt down. So, I mean, what better way to celebrate independence than to burn your own shit down? So that's what we have going on there. The other thing that I did this week is I went through and started and completed the entire questline for the Black Temple attunement. If you're not familiar with the attunements in the Burning Crusade, you have to do attunements for every raid instance except for Gruul and Mag Theridon. So those you can just walk into. Everything else, Karazhan, Tempest Keep, Serpentine Cavern, Black Temple, Mount Hyjal, you have to get attuned to them, which means you have to do an entire quest line, which involves, in some cases, some heroics, maybe other raid content, different things that you have to do in order to be able to get into those raids. So I did the quest for Mount Hyjal is done. That's already done because we killed Lady Vosh, and that was the last piece I needed, so that one's done. But for Black Temple, there's a whole quest line in Shadow Moon Valley that you have to do. Once you complete that, you have to go into the Arcatraz and talk to the guy in there, and then you come back out, and then you have to go into Serpentine Cavern, talk to the guy in there, and then you have to go into Tempest Keep, and you have to put on a disguise, and you have to kill Alar, and then you're pretty much done. And the last part is going to be we need the phylactery from Rage Winterchill, who is the first boss in Mount Hyjal. So we will do that when Phase 3 launches, and then we'll be good. So everything is done except for that last bit. Actually, no, I need to kill Alar in the disguise, but yeah, that's it. That's what we got going on. So, yeah, that's where I am. As far as midnight goes, so we have the start of the Dragonflight Timewalking this week. So on Tuesday, I went in and right away I was like, all right, let's go. Dragonflight Timewalking, let's go. I got Algathar Academy right off the bat, which is fine. It's a fun dungeon. And as I'm running through it, I'm realizing, this is actually way better than what we have right now in Midnight. I don't know what it was about those Dragonflight dungeons, but they are legit. They're so good. They feel good. You go in, you do them, it feels good. And I really miss that. So, this one's fun and having a good time running Dragonflight dungeons, but I miss that. I miss having those as just the dungeons. And honestly, I miss having dungeons as something that you go do and not hey, I've got to go to Mythic Plus or I've got to wait for time walking. The only time you do these dungeons now is when it's either a special week, when you have a thing, the reason to go do them, or if you're doing a Mythic Plus. And I feel sad because running dungeons used to be a big part of playing WoW, and now it's in retail. It's kind of a secondary or even tertiary thought, which makes me feel bad. So I miss that. I miss having dungeons be a big deal. And maybe we can get back to there at some point. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So anyway, that's what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. So there you go. All right. So we're going to continue on with putting the mailbag here in the beginning of the show. I want to front load that because I do want people to know that if you write in, if you leave me a comment, if you leave me a note, that I will read it and I will acknowledge what you said. And, I get it. Not everyone wants to be called out by name. Hey, this person said this. That might be something weird for people. That's fine. And if you ever want me to not say your name, he's like, hey, here's the comment I left on Spotify, but when you say it on the podcast, please don't read my name. I won't. Just tell me that, and I can make adjustments. But all right. So this week's comment comes from Mudwagon. This is from this is about a week and a half ago, and this is from the Project Ascension episode, which was 2 episodes ago. Mudwagon says, I played a heap of Project Ascension. It was unreal what they did with the base Blizzard game. And yes, it was free to play. However, it was heavily monetized, and they would have made a fortune. Love the podcast. Keep those positive vibes out there. Much love from Australia. Oh, well, thank you so much, Mudwagon. Australia is definitely a place that's on my bucket list of places I want to go before I die. So, who knows? Maybe one day I'll end up there, and I'll be able to check that out. If not, I'll just end up going to all the places my wife wants to go because that's how it works. So we'll go to Ireland and France and all that stuff. So, but Australia definitely on my top 10 list of places I want to go visit. So thank you for listening to the show. I really do appreciate it. And the whole Project Ascension thing, Blizzard actually put out they filed for summons to court. So basically what it works is you identify the people that you want to sue, and then you summons them to court saying, hey, you are required to appear at this date for court. And if they ignore you, then they get basically judged in it's called a default. So if I sued someone and I gave them paperwork and said, hey, you need to appear at court on this day, and they didn't show up. When the judge sees the case, he's going to go, or she's going to go, yeah, well, I guess you win because this other person didn't show up. So I get judgment in default. The catch with it is that you have to prove that you gave them ample opportunity to see what it was that you said. So you can serve them paperwork. And if you've ever seen, like in the first Iron Man movie, when Tony Stark says, he's flirting with Kate Mara's character, and she's like, oh, I'm here to serve you. And he doesn't want to get handed the paperwork, but he's there, and she can say, hey, I handed this to Tony Stark, or at least to his lackey who handed it to him. That's basically what it is. And so that person would then go to court and say, I testify that I did indeed give this person ample notice in this fashion to appear at court. So yeah, that's how it works. So that's where we are with Project Ascension. But anyway, thank you, Mudwagon, for listening. It definitely means a lot to me to know that people, even outside the United States, are listening to this podcast. It's crazy, honestly. Isn't the internet a wild thing? You know, I'm 49 years old, and I grew up with the internet because, you know, I was looking at AOL and CompuServe and Prodigy and all this stuff back in the day, before we had the World Wide Web. We were actually going to online services and getting information before we could just go to random websites. But it's something that I grew up with, and I've spent a good majority of my life dealing with. But in a lot of ways, it still blows me away that we can communicate with people on the other side of the world in such an easy fashion. I can get on here, hit record on my microphone, and say, hi, I'm an idiot who talks about World of Warcraft. Then people go, oh, I'm going to listen to your show. That's crazy to me. This guy in Australia is listening to my show. What? I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Mudwagon. You are awesome. And much love right back to you from the United States of America and Ohio, because that's apparently where I live now. So, all right, let's move on to the news.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, there is a new mount available on the shop, the Blizzard store, whatever you want to say. It's available. You can purchase it. It's $30, and it is a customizable mount. It's the Stoneforge Sentinel, and by customizable, we mean that it is something that you can customize like a dragon riding mount. You know how you can go in and choose, I want these wings, I want this nose, I want this claw, I want these whatever. You can choose your different styles, and you can have the mount exactly the way you want. It looks pretty cool. I mean, it's not my particular cup of tea, but I can look at something and objectively say, that's pretty cool. There are many customization options available: 4 stone colors, 4 wings, 6 wing styles, 6 claw styles, 6 tail styles, 3 saddle types, 4 metal colors, 6 head types, and 5 gem colors. That's not bad for $30. If you're looking for another mount, then this might be the one for you. So definitely check that out. I will put the link to the Stoneforge Sentinel mounts in the show notes. Not that anyone ever looks at the show notes, but if you do, this link will be in there. So there you go. All right. In other news, Blizzard has released a new short story. So we have The Bitter Truth Part 1 and apparently Part 2 that just came out as well. This is a story about Lorthamar and Tarundo the Grizzled, Blood Elf and Troll. You know, there's a lot of story behind the Blood Elf and Troll hatred that exists in the Warcraft universe. And I think in a lot of ways, World of Warcraft, and especially modern World of Warcraft, has kind of smoothed that over. So it's nice to see that there is a lot of that tension and that animosity between the two different groups of people that still exist in the game. I feel like we need that in WoW in order for there to be a reason for us to work together. Because if we're all just friends, then us working together isn't a big deal. But if we're enemies and then we work together, that means that the threat was so bad we had to work together in order to face it. It makes a difference. And I think Blizzard needs to do more of this style of story writing. Anyway, the story was written by Robert Brooks. It was illustrated on YouTube by Surfside 3D, and it was narrated by Gideon Emery as Lorthamar. and Keston John as Tarundo the Grizzled. So there you go. Check out the new short story, The Bitter Truth. If you like Blood Elves or Trolls, this is a story for you. If you're a big Night Elf or Human fan, then maybe it's not exactly what you're looking for. But honestly, this type of storytelling, and I haven't watched this yet or read the story, but Blizzard is really good with these types of stories because they give the story to an actual author who says, okay, now I'm going to write something interesting about this. They have rules set up in place that the author can't break so that we know, we're not going to suddenly make Thrall a circus clown. That's not going to make sense. And so likewise, the idea behind the trolls and the blood elves being kind of at odds with each other is important to this type of a story. So I think it's really important. So I'll put this in the show notes if you want to check it out on YouTube. Like I said, I haven't read it yet. I'll get to it this week. It's been too hot to do anything. I'm really struggling. Yo, guys, I'm having a hard time. So, yeah. Anyway, check out The Bitter Truth, and no doubt we'll see more story parts in the next few weeks for that. So, okay, on to the Break the Meta with Raider.io for Midnight Season 1. This is a new event that is being organized by Raider.io. It's really interesting to me how much effort Blizzard puts into these sorts of things. So Raider.io is sponsoring and they've created this entire event. The reward from this event is something that you currently can only get from doing the MDI or the AWC on the tournament realms. So if you participate in the MDI or you participate in the Arena World Championships, on the tournament realms, you will get these items in your bags, which is cool. For anyone who doesn't get those items automatically because they're not participating in either of these events, they can get it by joining the Break the Meta with Raider.io. And you're going to get your reward, which is, I wrote it down somewhere. It's a banner that you get. You can only get it by doing the tournament realm. So I don't know. I wrote it down somewhere. It's not here. I'm sorry. It's too hot. I'm struggling. So this event is going to take place between July 14th and July 21st. If you're not familiar with the Break the Meta, the way it works is they pick the off-meta specs and classes that are not as popularly represented in a Mythic Plus arena. So if you're playing a Discipline Priest or Holy Paladin, this is your time to shine. So here are the classes and specs that are available. Affliction Warlock, Arcane Mage, Assassination Rogue, Balanced Druid, Destruction Warlock, Devastation Evoker, Enhancement Shaman, Feral Druid, Fire Mage, Frost Death Knight, Havoc Demon Hunter, Marksmanship Hunter, Outlaw Rogue, and Windwalker Monk. The healers that are available are Discipline Priest, Holy Paladin, Holy Priest, Prez Evoker, and Restoration Druid. And finally, the tanks that are represented here is Blood DK, Protection Paladin, Protection Warrior, and Vengeance Demon Hunter. Previous Break the Meta events took place between each regional reset to account for weekly affixes, but since this is no longer an issue, everyone will now compete over the same time periods. That's July 14th through July 21st. Also new in Midnight are the Break the Meta bounties. This is a collection of challenges to complete dungeons with specific group compositions intended to encourage players to compete for even more prizes. Unlike regular prizes, though, these bounties aren't a raffle. There will only be one winner in each category for the team which places highest in each challenge. And the 8 challenges are: highest scoring key with only tank specs, and you will get the Whomper Pet. That's July 14th and 15th. Highest scoring key with no tank specs, July 15th to the 16th, and you will get the Deep Dweller's Hearthstone toy. Highest scoring key with 3 or more priests, July 16th to the 17th, and you will get 14 days of game time. Highest scoring key with 3 or more affliction locks, July 17th to the 18th, and you will get the Lolo Ragnaros pet. Highest scoring key with 3 or more marksmanship hunters, July 18th to the 19th, you will get 14 days of game time. Highest scoring key with 3 or more feral druids, July 19th to the 20th, and you will be rewarded with a Sandbox Storm Griffin highest scoring key with only healer specs, July 20th to the 21st, 500 Hearthsteel, which is huge. And finally, highest scoring key with only DPS specs, July 20th to the 21st, and you're rewarded with 14 days of game time. So that's what's coming up for the Break the Meta event. It's a really cool event. I think this is the type of thing that I'm glad Blizzard acknowledges and supports in some way. It's not a completely Blizzard sanctioned event, but Blizzard is happy enough to sponsor it and to assist with the rewards on this. So well done. Good luck to all of the participants in this. I will be on vacation during this entire thing, so I will not be participating in this at all. But because I'm leaving on July 14th and I'm arriving back in Cincinnati, Ohio on July 21st, so I will not be here for any of the event. I will be attending the wedding for my oldest daughter, who also plays World of Warcraft, mind you. All my children do, but she's got a paladin, a discipline prop paladin, discipline priest, and a fire mage, frost mage. I don't know what her mage is. Arcane mage, maybe. Either way, I will be out of town that week, so no Break the Meta for me. Not that I was going to do it anyway, but it's good to give me an excuse to not. Well, I can't do it because I'm going to be out of town. Oh no. So last year, this is a story that my wife will kill me for telling, but I'm going to tell it anyway because she doesn't listen to the podcast. So last year, when I was, we had been doing a lot of stuff around the house and doing things, and we were at kind of a rough spot in our home life, not necessarily with each other, but just life gets hard. And so my wife came to me and said, "Honey, what do you want for your birthday?" And I looked at her dead in the eye and I said, "I want a laptop because my laptop's a few years old and I'd love to be able to get a laptop that I can play WoW comfortably on." And she said, "Okay." And so she bought a laptop a few years ago, which is a Alienware. It's really nice. It's a beast of a laptop. It's the type of laptop that if you don't use a cooling mat with it, it's going to overheat. So she bought that, and I said, "Okay, that's if that's what you want, let's buy it." And so when I told her I wanted a laptop, she said, "Well, why don't you take mine? I don't use it a whole bunch. You take my laptop, and it'll be fine." And I said, "I don't know about that." But so I took it, and I put it in my room, and I started playing around with it, messing with the different settings and setting it up exactly what I want. And not a week after that, we had some people at the house, and she needed to get on a call for work, and she needed her laptop right away. And I said, "Okay, it's right here. Go take it." So she took the laptop. She started using it for work, and then later that day, she logged on to WoW, and she set up all her stuff for WoW, and I lost the laptop at that point. And so I'm coming up on my birthday again this year, which is in September. And when she asks me, "What do you want for your birthday this year?" I'm going to tell her the same fucking thing. I want a new laptop. And don't offer me yours. I want a new laptop. Because why am I in this position? I'm 49 years old. I make enough money to buy a new laptop. I could just go buy one if I wanted to. But that's not the point. The point is she's asking what I want, and I'm telling her what I want, and she's not listening. So I guess that's how it goes. So anyway, I don't know how I got on that rant. The Break the Meta event for Raid.io will start taking place July 4th. I think you can register now. So go ahead and register if you are one of the off-meta specs. That's pretty cool. And you can go register for the event coming in the middle of July. All right, let's look at this month's trading post. The July trading post is now up and live. Blizzard put out a blog article about it, but let's just go over some of the highlights here. We have the Blackwater Extreme Firework Rocket Mounts for 700 Traders Tendies. This is a cool rocket. I'm not going to lie. This one is something that I might end up buying because, to be perfectly honest with you, I like the rocket training or the rocket mounts. They're cool. I've never liked the love rocket that you get from the Valentine's Day event, even though people are, oh, I want the love rocket. I don't care. I don't care about the love rocket. What I want is cool rocket mounts. And this is a cool one. This one's actually really cool. So, if you are able to check this out, it's 700 attendees. You can go buy it. It looks really cool. I would say go get it. It's worth it. But if you don't want that, but you still want a rocket mount, you can get the Bilgewater Extreme mount. This one is a red version of the mount. The one you can get on the Trader's Post is blue. It's still really cool, and it's the same model, just a different color scheme. So if you just want a mount and you don't want to pay for it, you can get one from doing the Traveler's Log rewards, which is to get 1,000 points in your Traveler's Log for the month, and you get the mount. So check that out if you are so inclined. As far as the actual trading post goes, there's some okay stuff. You've got some kind of generic looking transmog pieces. These are the type of transmog pieces, and I love this because they go from 20 to 50 tenders each. Nothing's really fancy. Nothing's really super expensive. I love that because to me, the trading post should be about being able to get transmog and not being like, well, do I want to spend $500 on this really cool eye patch or these really cool songflowers? I mean, you could, but why would you? In my opinion, one of the best things on the trading post, though, this month is the Gunslinger's Cloudy Lid. This is a cowboy hat for 50 traders tenders. 50. This is really cool looking. It legit looks like a real cowboy hat. So if you are looking for that sort of thing for your transmog, definitely go pick this up for 50 traders tenders. This is hugely worth it. Other things that I would recommend getting, and this is just my opinion, but the Villagers Seaside Attire and the Villagers Seaside Collection are both available. They are blue variants of the red ones that we already got, the Villagers set that we already got, so it just allows for more mix and match transmog gear. The Dunecloth belt, skirt, vest, all that stuff is really cool. The classic Azure eye patch I love the eye patches. And the Violet and Crimson aprons actually look pretty cool. The Queldanel quiver, which is a dark version of the quiver that you can get, or that you've been able to get from past months, is also available. The Queldanel short bow, also there. That's 80 trader tenders. So if you want to get a cool, simple looking bow, there's been several different bow transmogs on the trading post. And this is just, I think this is a really good one. And then there's some really cool extravaganza items for weapons: rocket staff, rocket base, and spark wheel. These are just the typical themed items that we're going to get. So the July trading post, obviously, is going to give us firework themed weapons. So yeah, check those out if you are so inclined. So yeah, like I said, the trading post is one of those things that you go, well, I mean, there's some really cool stuff on there, so I'm not opposed to it. So yeah, it's cool. All right, let's move on. We have, okay, so there were two articles on Wowhead about the PTR, and I took both of those articles and I combined them into a news update called Why PTR Updates Cannot Be Trusted. So the first PTR update that we got was on June 20th, 11:30 a.m. It says scaling costs of gear upgrades return on patch 12.1 PTR. So if you look at this little spreadsheet that this person posted, you can see things like, Adventurer 1 of 6 costs, Adventurer 2 of 6 costs 10 Adventurer Crest to upgrade. Adventurer 3 of 6 costs 20 to upgrade, and so on and so forth. Basically, the price is going to go up each time you upgrade. And I thought, okay, that's fine. Cool. I didn't say anything about it last week because I thought, you know what, it's BTR. I don't want to jump on some news item that turns out is not valid or not real. 3 days later, on June 23rd, Blizzard posted a very short little update that says, fixed an issue where upgrading gear had scaling upgrade costs. Gear now has flat upgrade costs to upgrade each track, like in Midnight Season 1. So when something gets posted on the BTR, a lot of content creators, Wowhead, Icy Veins, these different sites, they will jump on it. Oh, Blizzard did this. But the public test realms are a place for us to go and try things out and test what it is that Blizzard is working on. We should be giving them feedback. And if people give them feedback like, hey, I don't really like the scaling cost for item upgrades, Blizzard can look at it and go, oh, you know what? We didn't mean to do that. You're right. That's terrible. Let's get rid of that. And they can get rid of it. And it goes away. And that's it. And I think that sometimes people forget that the PTR is a test realm and not a preview of what's coming in the new patch. Yes, you're going to see things that are coming in the new patch, but it's not designed as a preview. It's designed as a test realm. Thus the name, Public Test Realm. So if you see something on there that you think this looks terrible, that's what the feedback is for. Give the feedback to Blizzard. Are they always going to listen to it? No, they're not. They're not always going to listen to your feedback. But if you don't give feedback, you have no cause to complain. It's like if you said, I don't want to vote because I hate all the candidates. And then 3 months later, you're like, I hate the candidate we have now. I hate the president we have now. That's on you. You chose not to vote. You got to vote. And whatever country you're in, if you live in any sort of democracy where you can vote, you have to exercise that right. Because otherwise, yeah, you have nothing to say. And so the same vein here, if you're on the PTR and you see something and you don't like it and you say nothing, that's on you. It is on you. You're the one that decided not to say anything. Can you honestly say that you've never felt like reporting on the PTR, you only want to complain? That makes no sense. It makes no sense. If you want to get on the PTR and try things out, but you don't feel like putting in a report, that's fine. But at the end of the day, when it doesn't work right and you go, oh, that thing that I didn't like, Blizzard didn't fix it. Whose fault is that? Yeah, Blizzard, in an ideal world, in a perfect society, Blizzard would capture all of the bugs in their test build. But that's not where we live. We don't live in a perfect society. We live in a completely imperfect society where Blizzard is staffed by people, too few people to do the job that they're trying to do, honestly. But still, those are people. Those are real people. And Blizzard is trying their best to get what they can out of them. If things don't work out the way you want and you don't say anything, that is up to you. You've got to say something. And when in situations like this, 3 days went by where people thought, this is it. This is what we're getting now. This is the new normal. If I'm upgrading to Myth 2 of 6, it costs me 10 Myth Crests. But if I'm going to 66, it costs me 50 Myth Crests. That was what people were willing to expect. And they didn't like it. But some people just don't want to complain. They don't want to, air quote, cause waves, whatever that means. Say something. Get on there. Say something. Post it on Twitter. Submit feedback on the PTR. Post it on Reddit. Will Blizzard guarantee to read it? No. But if you don't say anything, then I guarantee you they won't see that. So do your duty. Get on there and post it. If you say, well, it's Blizzard's job. They're the ones that should be testing all this stuff and fixing it. Yeah, you're right. They should. But they're not gonna. Because they don't have the staff. So you can either sit there and be self-righteous about it, or you can jump on the PTR and report these bugs. It's up to you. All right, let's move on to the Mythic Plus Dungeon Philosophy and Design Goals for Midnight Season 2. Okay, Blizzard is making some pretty big changes for Mythic Plus in Season 2. And they released a really wordy forum post explaining exactly what they're trying to accomplish. So we're going to go through the highlights and just kind of cover as much as we can. One of the biggest takeaways from the post is that Blizzard wanted to explain how they actually choose the Mythic Plus dungeon pool for each season. According to them, it starts with the overall theme of the patch. Sometimes they'll bring back an older dungeon because it connects directly to the current story. They'll the example they gave here was the Seat of the Triumvirate. So, Seat of the Triumvirate with Lura threatening the Sunwell during the March on Quel'Danas. It did make sense to revisit the dungeon and reconnect players with the storyline. And so that's kind of the design philosophy and their design ethos for the returning Mythic Plus dungeons. Other times the connection is more thematic than narrative. So things like trolls, snakes, and with the Curse of Ula'tek as an example of recurring themes that tie multiple dungeons together. So, but they also say they don't want every dungeon to feel the same. That's why we'll see something like Ruby Life Pools in the lineup to provide a different pace of visual style so that every key doesn't just blend together. Once Blizzard settles on the dungeon pool, the next step is deciding what needs to change. So they'll say they look at things like feedback from player sessions, previous seasons, players' experience playing the live game, internal testing, beta feedback, things like that. Every enemy gets reviewed. They'll look at health, damage, spellcast, cast frequency, enemy placement, basically every pool throughout the dungeon. And the bosses get specific attention. Some are going to just get tuning adjustments, and others are going to get extensive redesigns if Blizzard feels the mechanics haven't aged well or create unnecessary frustration. So the goal, according to Blizzard, is to preserve what makes each dungeon memorable while updating encounters to fit modern Mythic Plus gameplay. So let's talk about the overall philosophy for Season 2. Blizzard says they are actually sort of happy with the overall difficulty of Season 1. So they aren't trying to make Mythic Plus dramatically easier or dramatically harder. They're trying to keep it right on that sweet spot. What they're trying to do instead is they're trying to redistribute where that difficulty comes from. So what they say here is the examples they give is for Season 1, it placed a huge amount of pressure on tanks and healers. When things went wrong, those two roles were usually responsible for recovering the pole and saving the king. For Season 2, Blizzard wants to spread that to make success dependent on the entire group. So to accomplish that, they're making a few adjustments. One, enemies will have slightly larger health pools, which they've been doing every season since I can remember, since Dragonflight, really. There will be more emphasis on damage checks and target prioritization. In some cases, mechanics that previously dealt with heavy damage are being changed to instead reduce player damage output or limit mobility. So instead of one-shotting people, make it so that, now your damage is going to go down, where you can't move as much. And the idea behind that is that players will go, well, I don't want that to happen to me. I mean, if we wipe, it's obviously the healer's fault. But if my damage goes down because I didn't do a mechanic, I guess I have to just do that mechanic. That's the goal here, is to force DPS to actually do stuff. No, if you don't interrupt, you're going to lose damage. That's how it works. That sort of thing. In some cases, mechanics that previously dealt heavy damage. So the idea is that tanks and healers will still have plenty to manage, but DPS players will have a larger impact on whether the key is completed successfully. So another change Blizzard highlighted is visual clarity. If you've been running Mythic Plus for years, you've probably noticed that older dungeons all use different visual effects to show cone attacks, line attacks, breaths, lasers, and that sort of thing. Blizzard has said that they are standardizing those visuals across the game. So we already got in the War Within, the circles have a specific design that you can tell, I need to move out of this because I know that this design means this is a damage circle, not a healing circle, not a whatever circle. No, this circle is bad. I need to get out of it. So instead of every expansion having its own way of telegraphing these mechanics, players should start seeing much more consistent indicators that make dangerous abilities easier to recognize at a glance. It's one of those quality of life changes that probably won't be in all the headlines on Wowhead and whatnot, but it could make older dungeons feel much more readable. The second half of the post walks through every dungeon in the Season 2 pool and explains some of the changes that Blizzard has already made. So we'll just go through this real quick. For Roberta Row, they're reducing frustration during the Cantina event by making successful tasks contribute more progress, making failures less punishing, and removing the job switching mechanic entirely. They're also cutting back on the number of interrupt-heavy caster enemies after Zane Bladeswarrow. Den of Valorek, Blizzard said they have heard the feedback about the pacing of the Winter Gauntlet and some of the RP sequences slowing everything down, so they've shortened those moments and sped up the Gauntlet, removing the Sentinel of Winter's scaling absorb shield, and made several adjustments to boss abilities that should improve pacing. In the Blinding Veil, Blizzard focused on reducing mechanics that disproportionately punished pickup groups. That includes reducing the number of As during the Icuz encounter, lowering enemy health in another boss fight, and fixing an issue with the Light Bloom's Essence mechanic, and reducing the number of caster-heavy trash pulls throughout the dungeon. Voidscar Arena is getting some larger structural changes. The opening area now offers separate melee-focused and caster-focused routes, each with its own mini-boss that grants a stat buff. Blizzard has also reworked the Tazra encounter, added new additional enemy abilities, and replaced several mini-bosses later in the dungeon, and updated mechanics during the Karnas fights. King's Rest is receiving several quality of life improvements. RP sequences are being shortened. The Council of Tribes now always appear in the same order instead of rotating weekly. Shadow of Zul has been updated for Modern Mythic Plus, and the final boss, Dazar, the final First King, has received a substantial encounter rework. So we'll have to see what that means. Temple of Sethrilus might actually have one of the longest lists of changes. Several bosses have been redesigned, including Adaris and Aspix, Merektha, and the Avatar of Sethrilus encounter at the end of the dungeon. Blizzard also says they've reworked the gauntlet leading up to the final boss to address bugs and improve the overall flow. And finally, Ruby Life Pools is getting a significant cleanup. Blizzard says the opening section felt cramped and chaotic, so they've removed some trash packs, simplified several enemy abilities, slowed down certain boss mechanics, and moved the flying patrols into the ground, and adjusted multiple encounters to make mechanics easier and understand less punishing when mistakes happen. So if you are familiar with Ruby Life Pools, you know that once you kill the first boss, you go up to the second floor, and that whole trash pull all the way around is brutal. And so Blizzard has worked on cleaning that up, changing the flying dragons so that that's not as difficult of a issue. And overall, it just sounds like a better dungeon experience. And I think that that's kind of the idea that they're going for. They go, hey, we've got these old dungeons returning. We're not just going to copy and paste them. We're going to update them and make them something that is worthwhile to run. And that's what it looks like we've got. So, this wasn't a post about class tuning. It wasn't about affixes. It was really Blizzard pulling back the curtain on how they talk about Mythic Plus dungeon design, and them explaining why certain dungeons make the cut, how they evaluate returning content, and what kinds of changes they're looking for before bringing an older dungeon back into the rotation. So whether these changes actually accomplish these goals, we'll have to see. We'll wait for Season 2 to go live and evaluate then, but it's definitely one of the more detailed looks we've had into Blizzard's Mythic Plus design philosophy. And it's nice to see them explain not just what they've changed, but why they're making those changes in the first place. Okay, the final thing here is the quality of life improvements coming in the Curse of Ula'tek. So Blizzard has released another blog post this week highlighting the quality of life improvements coming in patch 12.1. And this isn't one of those flashy feature announcements with the new raid, big system overhaul, all this stuff. It's just focused on making the game smoother to play, reducing some long-standing frustrations, improving the overall player experience. Let's go over really quickly what it is that they're changing. So Blizzard starts by saying the quality of life improvements have been a continuing focus since patch 12.05, and that many of the updates coming in Curse of Ula'tek are based directly on player feedback, which is refreshing to hear. And as long as we can trust that, then I'm good. Some of these improvements have already gone through hot fixes and the Midnight Revelations update, so they went live with 12.07. One of the bigger changes that they're making, that they've already made, is improving the performance of Silvermoon City. Blizzard says they've increased the number of players that each shard can support, allowing the city to feel more populated while maintaining stable performance. And that's a really hard thing to do. As somebody who understands a good amount of the tech behind a live service game, I can tell you right now, it's hard to increase performance like this, but they've done it. We'll have to see how it goes and how long term, how these changes affect the game. But for now, I think it seems to be I think it seems to be working pretty good. They also increased progress rates for Prey at lower ranks, making it easier to unlock related story quests and Nightmare mode. The AoE looting and auto loot have received bug fixes, addressing an issue that could occasionally cause those systems to fail. Weekly activities like Delver's Call, Dungeon Quest, and other weekly quests are now awarding more experience. And finally, they've released the repair cost by removing normal durability loss caused by swinging your weapon or blocking with a shield. Going forward, that everyday combat could wear and tear will no longer slowly chip away at your gear durability. I've said it before, and I feel like that's not a great way to fix the repair costs, but because they're just addressing one aspect of it, but that's okay. At least they're trying something new, and I do like the fact that your weapon's not going to take damage over time. I think that's good. Looking ahead into patch 12.1, Blizzard says the next wave of improvements focuses on progression, convenience, interface updates, and fixing several long-standing bugs. Probably the biggest headline is something profession players have been asking for. Each profession will receive a one-time profession knowledge reset, allowing players to completely refund and distribute all of their knowledge points. It's important to note that Blizzard says this is a one-time per profession reset, so it is intended as an opportunity to correct previous choices rather than something players can do repeatedly. Okay, housing is also getting some attention. Blizzard says they are reducing the crafting cost of midnight housing decorations, making it easier and less expensive players to decorate their homes. Another convenience change is that the Void Forge service in Season 2 will be moved into Silvermoon City, giving players a more central location to access it. There are also quite a few user interface improvements coming. One feature that players have been requesting for years is arriving, which is map coordinates built directly into the user interface. No more relying on add-ons just to figure out exactly where you are. Blizzard has also taken the first step toward more account-wide interface settings, so your auto-loot preferences will now be shared across your characters. You won't have to enable it individually on every alt. Developers also mentioned that this is just the beginning, and that they'd like to expand account-wide UI settings even further in the future. Auction House is getting a nice little quality of life update as well. Search filters will now stay in place after closing and reopening the window, making it much quicker to return to previous searches. The currency tab is getting collapsible groups to help organize all the different currencies we've accumulated over the years. The achievements window is finally receiving a back button, making navigation a little less frustrating. And the loss of control panel is being added to the UI edit mode, giving players more flexibility over where that information appears on their screen. The blog also highlights several bug fixes that Blizzard wanted to specifically call out. They've addressed several situations where players could become stuck in combat far longer than expected while out in the open world. It fixed a bug that could cause transmogrified gear to display incorrectly on the character selection screen. Can't have that. A rare issue where Valera could unexpectedly die during delves has been resolved, and players should no longer find themselves randomly dismounted while flying into Zulaman from Eversong Woods. Blizzard closes the post by saying that quality of life improvements often come down to small details rather than headline features, and that they plan to continue looking at ways to make World of Warcraft easier to navigate and more enjoyable to play. They also reiterate that player feedback continues to guide these efforts, and they expect additional quality of life improvements to be added as testing on the PTR continues. So, yeah, I think this is great. You know, I love seeing posts like this. It's easy to get excited about the new raid. Oh, we got snakes and trolls and new zone and just all these kind of improvements are the ones that players interact with every day. You know, the map coordinates thing is huge. Auction house filters, housing decorations, these little micro changes make the game more fun. They make the game respect your time. And that's a big thing for me, is the game respecting my time, because you know what? Honestly, you could make any game cool and have it be fun, but if it doesn't respect your time, people aren't going to play it. Because you could put every crazy good feature into the game, and if it's not fun because the game doesn't respect your time and the game expects you to be logged on for 20 hours a day, what's the point? Nobody's doing that. We're not in our 20s anymore. I mean, I'm not. Maybe you are. If you are, I hate you. But yeah, it's good to see that Blizzard is paying attention to this and going, okay, we'll fix some of these things. Not every quality of life feature needs to be a big deal, but little things like when we got AoE looting in, what was that, Miss Pandaria? It was a huge change, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really a big deal because it was just like, well, we're going to make looting better. It's not making the gameplay any better. It's just making you loot faster. So, yeah, okay, it wasn't really a big deal, but that's the type of thing that Blizzard needs to focus on to make this game work. Get rid of the bugs, clean up some of these extra things that people are frustrated with. That's where the focus needs to be. That's what Blizzard needs to be doing. So, as long as we get that, and as long as we can see this happening, I'm happy, and I'm good with it, so. All right, let's move on to what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. This week's bonus event is the Dragonflight Timewalking. We're going to get the Sign of Dragonflight's buff. Dragonflight reputation gains from combat and quest increased by 50%. You can pick up the quest A Soaring Path Through Time from Archmage, Aether, Sunreaver, and Silvermoon to defeat 5 Timewalking dungeons, and you will be rewarded with a hero track raid item. The Dragonflight Timewalking dungeons are Algathar Academy, Azure Vault, Brackenhide Hollow, Halls of Infusion, Neltharis, and Ruby Life Pools. Like I said, I did Algathar Academy, and it was super easy. It was so fun, and it felt good to be running those dungeons again, honestly. I'm not going to lie, that feels good. So, if you are feeling even slightly nostalgic for Dragonflight, go do Timewalking. These are good dungeons. Even Halls of Infusion is good. It's, yeah. So, okay, so they're not all great. They're not all home runs. But, even Brackenhide Hollow has its pluses. So, check out Dragonflight Timewalking. And if you have an alt, or maybe your character is like mine and you don't have all hero track items, definitely go do this because you'll be rewarded with a hero track raid item when you do your Timewalking. We'll get to the terminated time ways in just a second. The PvP brawl for the week is Classic Ashran. Classic Ashran is an open-ended tug-of-war battleground with special events around the zone, including quests and events. If you hate yourself and you want to do a PvP brawl, this is your week. This is the week to go do a PvP brawl. If you are like, hey, I really hate myself, I want to be miserable, what can I do? Boom, here you go. Classic Ashran. This is the one to do it. It's terrible. It just is. There's a reason they changed it. And the fact that they brought it back for a brawl just boggles my mind. But anyway, when you zone it, you'll get to quest something different to win a PvP brawl, and you will be rewarded with Conquest, Honor, and Marks of Honor. The Midsummer Fire Festival is finishing out. It will wrap up July 5th. So if you want to go finish that up, there's some really good quests that you can do in Midnight's version of WoW, flying through different fire flowers in the different zones. It's actually really good and gets you a lot of the currency to buy stuff. There's lots of things to purchase off of the vendor. So if you're like, oh, I got all this stuff before, there's new stuff out there. So definitely go check that out. Midsummer Fire Festival will run until June 5th. If you're on Classic, TBC or MOP, this is a great way to get some XP and some gold. So definitely go check that out if you are so inclined. It'll run through July 5th, which is this Sunday. I think it runs until 10 a.m. Pacific time on July 5th. So you really only have until July 4th. But anyway, doesn't matter. Speaking of July 4th, the Fireworks Spectacular Holiday event is going on. It will start on July 4th and run through July 5th. After the sun sets, the end of Midsummer is celebrated with an hourly firework extravaganza. To watch the show, visit any capital or Booty Bay. I'm going to be going to Booty Bay this year because that's my favorite place to sit and watch the fireworks. You can get up on the roof of the inn building and sit up there, and there's probably going to be other people sitting up there watching. Check out the fireworks. It's going to be raining here in Cincinnati, so I probably won't be able to go watch fireworks. So this will be the closest I get to it. And I'm okay with that because I really don't need to be around all those people because they're gross. So yeah, check out the fireworks spectacular. You don't get anything for it. You just get to go watch fireworks, but especially if you're with some friends or some guildies or whatever, it's cool to go check it out. And yeah, so any capital city or Booty Bay. Darkmoon Fair will be in town this Sunday. Meet Silas Darkmoon and his troupe, play games that test mind and nerve, and behold the exotic sights from the four corners of Azeroth and beyond. This is going to run from July 5th to July 11th. Darkmoon Fair, always a great time. You can get shot out of the cannon. You can get the XP and reputation buff by riding the merry-go-round or the roller coaster. You can check out the heavy metal concerts with the Torn Chieftains. I mean, they fly through the rings. There's all sorts of things you can do at the fair. The most important thing, though, make sure you do your profession quests. You get knowledge points and skill points if you haven't already earned all your skill points. So let's say your leatherworking is 97 out of 100. If you go to the Darkmoon Fair, you'll get those 3 points from turning in your profession quests. Actually, I think it might be 2 points, but still, you're almost there, and it's definitely worth checking out. So, there you go. That's what's going on at the Darkmoon Fair. Go to the fair. It's worth it. I know some people think, Jonathan, shut up about the fucking fair. Trust me, it's worth it. It's a lot of fun. Go do it. If you go with a friend, it's even more fun. But even by yourself, it's a good time. All right. And finally, this week kicks off the 6th iteration of the Turbulent Timeways. Yet again, the Bronze Dragonflight has discovered growing disturbances in the Timeways, with several rapidly intersecting our own. For completing consecutive time-walking dungeons, you will gain knowledge of Timeways, increasing your experience gain temporarily. Also, for a limited time, the time-walking quests in Silvermoon, Marchmage, Ace of Sunreaver will offer an increased reward, an all-new heroic level cache of Quel'Thela's treasures. So there you go. That's what's coming in the Turbulent Timeways. So we're going to get the achievements, Master of the Turbulent Timeways 5, in Mastery of the Turbulent Timeways for 4 weeks during the Turbulent Timeways 5 events. And the reward for this is the Spawn of Vyranoth mount. So make sure you do this. It's worth it. This mount is fucking cool. It looks like Vyranoth, and you definitely want that. So the way it works is anytime you complete a time-walking event during Turbulent Timeways, you're going to get a buff. If you get 4 stacks of that buff, you get a new buff called Mastery of the Timeways. And if you get that 4 weeks in a row, you'll get the mount. So make sure you're getting the buff. Make sure you're holding on to the buff, because once you have the buff, you can refresh it by running 1 time walking, and that will give you credit for another time of having another stack of having the buff. So basically, once you get it, you only have to renew it 3 more times, and you're done. So definitely go check that out if that is your desire. Schedule for dungeons is Dragonflight, Battle for Azeroth, Shadowlands Classic, the Burning Crusade, and Dragonflight. I said Shadowlands Classic, and my brain processed that wrong. There is no Shadowlands Classic. There's Shadowlands and then Classic. Please, God, Blizzard, don't give us Shadowlands Classic. I'll take Shadowlands Remix. That's fine, but do not give us Shadowlands Classic. Holy moly. So in honor of the 6th iteration of the Turbulent Timeways, I thought now might be a good time to discuss the history of the Turbulent Timeways and of time walking itself. So if you're unfamiliar with the way that things work, the Turbulent Timeways has been a part of WoW since Dragonflight. It first appeared in patch 10.0.7 on March 28th, 2023, and we got Kata, Mop, Wad, Legion, TBC, and Wrath, which is pretty much what dungeons we had available at that time. The reward for doing the achievement was the Sandy Shalewing mount, which is a terrible mount, but it was a reward anyway. And that was the first time that we got the Turbulent Timeways, March 2023. In September of 2023, patch 10.1.7, we got Turbulent Timeways again. Same reward, same achievement, except this time the dungeon pool was slightly smaller because we had only 5 weeks. So this was Kata, TBC, Legion, Mop, and Wrath. Wrath Lich King, probably the best time-walking dungeon pool because those dungeons are so fast. Anyway, that's what we got in the beginning of Dragonflight. We didn't get one for patch 10.2.7, but we did get one again in the War Within for patch 11.0.7. This one was from January 2025 to February 2025, we were rewarded with the Timely Buzzbee mount. And the dungeons here were Mop, Wad, Legion, Classic for the first time, TBC, Wrath, and Kata. And remember, we had just had the Classic, or the 20th anniversary of World of Warcraft in November of 2024, where we were able to run those Classic dungeons. So this is the first time it showed up in the Turbulent Timeways. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Those dungeons are okay. My biggest complaint about the Classic dungeons is that they gave us the Cataclysm versions of the Classic dungeons with the Classic mobs. So we still have things like the teleporters and the dead mines and the undead in Stratholme, Scarlet Side of Stratholme. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm good with it. The Timely Buzzbee mount was really cool. And there you go. So that was the third iteration. The fourth iteration was from June of 2025 to August of 2025. We got the Chrono Corsair mount, which was really cool. That's the pirate mount from the Tazavesh dungeon. This is patch 11.1.7. So we got BFA, MOP, TBC, WAD, Legion, Classic, and BFA. Patch 11.2.7 was the next iteration. This gave us the Shadowlands mount voucher, which we could use to purchase a mount from one of the 4 different Shadowlands covenants, which was kind of a cop-out to me, but this is the way to introduce Shadowlands Timewalking. So we got, this is December of 2025, we got Shadowlands, Miss Pandaria, Classic, Legion, Kata, TBC, WAD, BFA, Wrath, and Shadowlands again. This was a big one, and this was the end of the patch, or the end of the expansion, so that makes sense. This wrapped up February 9th, 2026, and the expansion launched just a few weeks later. And now here we are in July of 2026, where we are on patch 12.0.7. So there are 6 dungeons available in the Timewalking pool: Dragonflight, Battle for Azeroth, Shadowlands, Classic, the Burning Crusade, and Dragonflight once again. And if you complete this one, like I said, you'll get the Spawn of Viranoth mount, which is really cool. So yeah, there you go. Now, I found it interesting that we got Classic at the end of 2024. We got BFA in 2025. We got Shadowlands in 2025. And we got Dragonflight in 2026. Feels fast. And it is. It is fast because Timewalking started, little history lesson for you folks. Timewalking started in June of 2015. First 2 dungeons were the Burning Crusade and Wrath, or the first 2 expansions, I should say. This took place in Warlords of Draenor patch 6.2, and you had to be level 71 and above for the Burning Crusade dungeons, and level 81 and above for the Wrath of the Lich King dungeons. Seemed weird, but that's what they did. A few months later, in November, we got Cataclysm. This was patch 6.2.3. In Legion, in January of 2017, we got Miss Pandaria Timewalking. In March of 2019, during BFA, we got Warlords of Draenor Timewalking. And finally, in November of 2021, during Shadowlands, we got Legion Timewalking. So that's how we are caught up with Timewalking. We're going from TBC all the way through Dragonflight. Obviously, the War Within is not in the Timewalking cooldown rotation yet, but I'm sure it'll be there soon. And yeah, there you go. I mean, it's cool. I like Timewalking. I wish we could have Timewalking every week, personally. I mean, we have enough. We have so many expansions that are on the Timewalking list. We could just do it every week, and it would feel different. I feel like Blizzard needs to address some of the Timewalking issues. Timewalking originally, it took your character and it scaled you down to the level of the dungeons. So with the Burning Crusade, it scaled you down to level 70, and so on and so forth. And so what people used to do is they used to take their old gear from those expansions and put it on, because you're scaled down to that level, so your gear still works. So if you have a cool set bonus or a cool trinket that you can use, people were doing that. And when when Blizzard squished all the levels in Shadowlands, this is at the end of the Battle for Azeroth, beginning of Shadowlands, Blizzard squished everything down. Everybody went from level 120 to level 50. and we leveled up to level 60 in Shadowlands. That changed everything because now the Timewalking dungeons were no longer tied to a specific level because that was the level we did the expansion at. And so everything had to scale up instead. So what Blizzard changed is that Timewalking now scales up to the player's level instead of the player scaling down to the level of the dungeon. It's a small change, but what it means is that you can't use those old pieces of gear anymore, those old trinkets, those old weapons with cantrips. You can't do that anymore. It doesn't help. Now what you just have to fight your way, slog your way through it. And most time walking is pretty easy, but every now and then at the beginning of an expansion or at the end of an expansion, once we've switched over to the new pre-patch, we're going to have some struggles there. And that's okay. As long as we know, hey, this is going to be a struggle situation, then that's fine. But yeah, time walking is one of those really cool features that was added to the game. And I honestly feel like we could see more of it. I would prefer to see more of it. Will we get more? I have no idea. But I think that it's definitely something Blizzard needs to just put out there and say, hey, this is happening every week. We're going to get it. And that's so. All right. And that's it for what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. So as I alluded to in the beginning of the episode, we don't really have a main topic this week. It's too hot. Honestly, I got through all the news. I got through all the topics I wanted to talk about. This is going to wrap up the show. So thank you so much for listening. I apologize for kind of truncating things, but I'm having a rough time. I'm struggling. So thank you for listening. And I really do appreciate it. As I mentioned last episode, we're going to go without our cameras for the next few weeks, probably through the end of summer, just because it's been so hot and unhappy. I've got a window open in my room with a fan pointing out, and so yeah, I'm having a rough time, but we're going to get through it. And we're still playing WoW. We're having fun, so that's really what matters. So thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. It is always a pleasure and a privilege for me to get on this microphone and speak to you. If you are enjoying the show and you want to help us out, you could consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. This really help out the distribution, so if you're inclined to do so, we'd be very grateful. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can help us out by giving us a like and subscribe and maybe leaving a comment there as well. I don't typically read the YouTube comments, but if I see a really good one, I'll pop it on there. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our patrons. These are people who give their IRL money to help out the production costs of the show. You can get to our Patreon by going to patreon.com/Azeroth United or by going to AzerothUnitedPod.com. That's going to have links to everything that you need for your Azeroth United stuff. But yeah, our patrons, they give their real money. This is like IRL money. This isn't like Monopoly money. They're not sending me gold in game. People give me their real money to help out with the production of the show. And I'll tell you right now, it makes me so happy to know that people are willing to do that and that I can rely on the fact that people will help me out with the show. I'm always going to spend more on the show than I get in support. That's just the way it is. I spend a lot of money on the show, and I'm not saying that to, guilt trip anyone. I'm saying that I don't want anyone to think I'm out here begging for money or that I'm trying to make a living off this. I'm not. This is not what I do for a living. This is not ever what I'm going to do for a living. This is what I'm doing for fun. As soon as I try to turn it into a business, it becomes not fun. So it will always be fun for me. It'll always be something that I'm doing to try and enjoy and have some time off. There are some weeks, like this week, where it's a little harder to do than others. And that's just because of the situation that I'm in environmentally, with the weather and things being so hot and so miserable. I've had a hard time thinking about the podcast and really wrapping my brain around, I need to sit and do a podcast. No, I don't want to sit and do a podcast. I want to get in the shower under cold water and just rinse all this heat away. But anyway, patrons, thank you so much. Especially our friend of the show patrons. These are people who are in our top tier membership. I mean, all of our patrons are important to me and I appreciate it. But I do have a specific call out that I like to make for our top tier patrons. That is our friend of the show. That is Stug Life, Thelial, Greybeard, Raven, Azurin, Agro Management, and Luch. Thank you all so much for your support. You guys and all of our patrons definitely help make Azeroth United possible. Okay, so thank you again for listening. Remember to be good to each other out there. That's a real person on the other side of that keyboard. And, Maybe they don't like the Mythic Plus pool for season 2, or maybe they do, or who cares? It's a person. It's a real person. And I think sometimes we forget on the internet that these are real people, and you can be a jerk as much as you want, but that's somebody. It's somebody's son or daughter. That's somebody's brother or sister, parent, child, whatever it is. It's a real person, and they may have feelings. And yeah, some people like to conduct themselves in a kind of rude way online, and you can't let that get to you. You just gotta smile and nod and say, okay, well, I guess you're being rude today. That's how it goes. So, all right, take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.